What is good? Oh, sorry, I was here stuck in the middle. I'm going to have to stall just for a little bit before I bring this up because I have to start with a strong statement about the Democrat Party, nothing that I've never really said before. It's going to be a common theme, the Democrat Party. And the first 20 or 30 seconds of YouTube matter a lot. But thanks for joining. I had a fun weekend. Hopefully everybody is doing well with them, with you and your family. West Cook News, OPRF, and that is Oak Park River Forest High School, to implement race-based grading system in 2022-2023 school year. There is no organization. Let me pull this back real quick and take a look here. Let me stop. I always have Nick Fuentes in mind because I watch him a lot and everybody, calls him a racist, but whoever you want to call it, it's really funny because I look at it and I'm like, nobody denounces having to be a part of the Democrat Party. The Democratic Party, there is no organization more racist in our country that I'm aware of than the Democrat Party. None. And this is just another example of it. West Cook News, they talk about this race-based grading system that's coming. Oak Park and River Forest High School administrators will require teachers next school year to adjust their classroom grading scales to account for the skin color or ethnicity of its students. This is not a parody. I double and triple check now because I don't know. I really don't know what a joke is and what's real life anymore. This is not a joke. They're adjusting their classroom grading scales to account for the skin color or ethnicity of students. Can you believe this? So I'm guessing for me, because I'm darker, I'm guessing that it would be a lot easier for me to get an A. It would probably be a lot easier for me to get graded with an A grade. What about Steph Curry? Steph Curry is I always use him as the example of a light-skinned dude. My kids are mixed, so you could use my kids too. I think Steph Curry's like lighter than even my kids are. So I don't know. So me, I probably, with the way I went through school, I was good in math. I kind of messed around in the other subjects, especially in after high school. But I probably would have got close to a 4.0 for sure. If you were going to take my skin color into account, that if you're going to take, and I don't even know, I have to kind of look at these words when you look at ethnicity of people, like what does that mean? So what if you're white, but you're from South Africa, like Elon Musk? I don't understand how they do this, but I think what they're doing is taking the statistics and projecting them, saying, hey, Asian students are here, so they need to be brought down. Black students are here, they need to be brought up, type of stuff. School board members discussed the plan called Transformative Education, Professional Development, and Grading at a meeting on May 22nd, presented by Assistant Superintendent for Student Learning Laurie Fiorenza. In an effort to equalize test scores among racial groups, OPRF will order its teachers to exclude from their grading assessments variables it says disproportionately hurt the grades of black students. What does that sound like? They can no longer be docked for missing class. Nothing like teaching discipline to children, like you miss class, everything's all good. They can no longer be docked for missing class, misbehaving in school, or failing to turn in their assignments according to the plan. What does you can't be docked for misbehaving in school? Well, I don't think misbehaving necessarily should go to your end grade, but I don't even know what that means. It's like they're trying to turn the classroom into like a mini San Francisco. So a student could just go to the back of the class and walk with their head down? I mean, does this promote more emotional insecurity and the type of mental issues that we saw in Uvalde, or less? Traditional grading practices perpetuate inequities and intensify the opportunity gap. This is a slide from their Power Deck. So they have a link to the Power Deck here in this article, and you can go to the Power Deck, and I'll go over to it real quick. And it's always about reimagining, or I think the word they use here is transforming. Yeah, transformative. That's the key word here. We're gonna have to pause as a country. You've been seeing the degradation of our country, and this is just Oak Park. We're talking about Illinois, but this is how they always start this with a slow moving boil. And you wonder, sometimes I wake, I'm like, how did we even get here? It's because of that slow boil, and nobody puts their foot down. It's always, oh, it's just this. Oh, critical race theory is not in schools. How funny does that sound now? It almost sounds silly to say it's in schools. It's almost more fitting to say schools are churches of critical race theory now. And that was just a few months ago. Maybe even today, you probably would hear people on corporate media saying critical race theory is not taught in schools. Literally gaslighting. I think it's time for us to show courage, and I talked about the comments where people were using the word like the police officers didn't show courage. Well, there's a lot of people that aren't showing courage. We aren't showing. We're allowing this. And really, I do have to. They force non-identitarians into the conversation of identity. Maybe I'm just not smart enough. I don't know how to address this because now I sound like an identitarian. Because to even talk about the article, I have to bring up racial inequity and color. I don't know how to fight this battle without bringing up race. So they drag you into their arena, and now you're an identitarian. I don't want to be an identitarian. So somebody help me. How do you talk about this without being an identitarian? I don't even know if it's possible. It's brilliant stuff that they've done. Because you can talk about, well, I don't see color and all that. You won't be in the conversation then. You can't even read the article. You can't read and even talk about what's happening. So I talk about courage. Black Americans, where's your courage? Where's our courage? This is our duty. I was on with Jennifer from Sweet Home, California. And maybe I'm going to have to do a lot of stuff on this topic here and dig into it deeper. So maybe I'll clip it for another video, where it was kind of weird because at the end of the interview, I got a little amped up. I forgot what somehow race came up, and I got a little amped up because I'm like, Black Americans have to step up. We're the ones that have to stop this. Because like I talk about abortion, I'm like, I don't even feel comfortable talking about abortion because I'm not a woman. So I'm like, I'm real easy. And that's how many non-blacks feel about this topic. They won't tell you the truth because I don't blame them. You'll get canceled. You'll be called whatever. It's not worth it. I'm just going to move out of this school district. That's what you would do. I don't blame you. And if black people aren't going to talk about how stupid this is or how insulting this is, why the hell would a white person talk about it? Especially a non-liberal. So the mentality from non-liberal, you could say white people, is different than liberal. White people think they have the savior complex. They think you're like a pet to be domesticated. But non-white, non-black people who are on the other side or whatever, social justice left, they don't view that. So they're like, hey, if black people aren't speaking out against this, what am I going to do? I'm going to move out. I'm going to move somewhere else. That's for damn sure. But I'm not going to, I'm not fighting their battle. If they want this, they want it. So I'm saying that to say we have to show courage and take the lead. That has to happen. The civil rights movement, which I don't think they even think that's good anymore, but I'm just using that as an example. I thought it was good. I still do. I mean, this whole critical race theory is actually a rebuke against civil rights, believe it or not. It's against Martin Luther King Jr. and all of that. They didn't think it was strong enough and went far enough. So I think that was good. Civil rights would not have happened without the help of non-blacks. It wasn't just a black movement. So for this to be fought, black people have to take the lead and say, this isn't what we want, you racist Democratic Party. And this is happening in a couple schools in Illinois. But if I'm incorrect to bring this to the broader picture of the Democrat Party, then Mayor Lori Lightfoot, tell me that I'm wrong. Gavin Newsom, tell me that you disagree with this. Joe Biden, say that this is unconstitutional. They don't even talk about it. You are a part of this if you don't talk against it, period. So it's up to black people. It has to be. I don't know. That's the only way to overturn this. There's no non-black person that's going to be able to lead. Like I talked about Tamara Litch yesterday leading the Freedom Convoy. You can't have a Tamara. It just won't happen. So that's the brilliance of it. And what they're doing is saying black people are already wrapped up into this party. So we already got control of them. So let's leverage this control. They're not going to fight against this. This is directly from the training material. Traditional grading practices perpetuate inequities and intensify the opportunity gap. Integrating equitable assessment and grading practices into all academic and elective courses requires the collective effort of a team of educators committed to improvements that benefits all students. Many of the Oak Park, River Forest High School teachers are successfully exploring and implementing more equitable grading practices. I'm going to talk about what equity means in a second, such as utilizing aspects of competency-based grading, eliminating zeros from the grade book, and encouraging and rewarding growth over time. So eliminating zeros from the grade book, if you know math averages, if you've got a zeros, that really takes your grade down. Like maybe you missed a test or you just flunked a test. I don't know if it means like complete zeros or if you got a 10%, we'll just throw it out. It's basically putting lipstick on a pig for many different reasons. We're seeing that because I brought it up from Baltimore. A lot of Baltimore high school students are reading at lower than kindergarten level. And a lot of people like myself say, well, I don't want to hear anything about a critical race theory when the kids can't even read. So if you change the metrics of grading, you can say they can read. They got a C instead of an F. It's just a lipstick on a pig. There's this thing where in Ukraine, the Azov battalion, they changed their logo because the old logo had you could argue was a racist symbol of a Yahtzee. They changed it to a non-Yahtzee symbol. Yahtzee problem solved. It's the same Yahtzee wearing a symbol that's different. And it's the same thing here. You still can't read, do math, write, but you got a C, so you're passing. Same type of thing. And it's even worse than that because if you're doing well, you get taken down because you have privilege, advantages. So it calls for what these leaders describe as competency-based grading, eliminating zeros from the grade book, all that stuff. This is really something else here, this part. Believe it or not, there's more. Teachers are being instructed how to measure student growth while keeping the school leader's political ideology in mind. That's not it. Not it's not what you might think. It's not saying keep politics out of school. It's saying keep your politics in mind in school. Teachers and administrators at OPRF HS will continue the process necessary to make grading improvements that reflect our core beliefs. So that is saying our politics are driving this, and we're not afraid to say it, and it is in school. And it is, to me, obviously another anti-Trump sentiment. This is what it comes down to. And I say Trump, but it's obviously bigger than Trump. It's an anti-populist right movement. Because the political ideology of these teachers are anti-MAGA, anti-people who would even, that's why you say you have to be an anti-racist. You have to be against MAGA. Even if you say, I don't really care about MAGA, then you are pro-MAGA to them. That's what this is about. People might disagree with me on that. All of this, I tweeted a while back, they don't care if kids turn to another sexual preference, whether, it was kind of groomed that way or not. They don't care as long as they don't become MAGA. That's, to me, what all of this is about. Think about that. That's what 2016 was about. 2020 is about. That's what all this is about. I couldn't believe this. So they said, according to the Illinois State Board of Education, 38% of OPRF sophomore students taking the Scholastic Aptitude Test failed. So the failure rate was 77% for black students, 49% for Hispanics. So that's when you start divvying up these pieces into these different race buckets, then you can make a statistic say whatever you want it to say. So it's 77% failure for black students. Oh, so that means we have to do something. Something's wrong. Indirectly, they're saying black students and parents are too stupid to figure out what's wrong and change it. So we are, I took my kids to the zoo yesterday. We are the zoo caretakers. So they were feeding the giraffes when we were there. So it's cool to see the giraffes eating their lettuce and whatever else they're eating. That's what the Democrat Party views black people. They say, wait, there's a failure rate of 77%, so we need to keep you in the zoo like you're an endangered species. And we're the caretakers. And it's not just a lot of people say white liberals. It's Jamel Hill's a part of this too. Like Joy Reid's a part of this too. It's not white liberals. It's just the Democrat philosophy. You're too dumb. You're too stupid. So we're going to put you in a cage, and in this case, it's a mental cage, and we will feed you as long as you stay in the cage. You can't run away, because then now you would be a Candace Owens type or something else for us to attack. So there's no getting to the heart of issues anymore. It's equity. Somebody tweeted on my timeline, this is a cartoon. So we were talking about equity and this famous picture where there's people on a box. And I'm going to try and make sure I want this picture to, okay. So hopefully you can see this. I'll describe it if you can't see it. It's the famous picture. I don't know where it came from, but it's been floating around for a while, where there's 3 people standing at a fence. And what they view equity as is the shorter person gets a box to stand on so they can be as tall as the next person. And then the short person gets 2 boxes to stand on. And I tweeted, that's a kind view of equity. And I'll show that here because somebody replied to kind of explain. I retweeted that graph. Well, let me show. This is the original graph. If you can see it, equality means everybody has the same box. And if you're taller, you're taller. If you're shorter, you're shorter. Equity is everyone gets to be at the same height. That's what we're seeing in this Oak Park River Forest School District is equity, not equality. So I replied to that and I said, that graph is a kind depiction of equity. Another option would be to make the taller person shorter by any means necessary. And I wanted to make that clean, but that is what equity is. I kind of hedged it a little bit. But no, equity isn't really the boxes. It's doing whatever you need to do. I didn't want to get graphic, but someone did get somewhat graphic in the replies. And I said, no lies detected to this. And the shorter person is now shorter. They're all the same height, but there's no boxes. Just the taller person doesn't have any legs. That's what we're seeing here. Equity-based grading practices. They seek to raise the grade point averages of Black students, not by teaching discipline or helping the parents out. Really it starts with how much do you value education. No, you know why they're not doing that? Because they know that that's not going to help the Democrat Party. If you help Black parents understand how to educate their children, the importance of education, you might look at the Democrat Party no differently than the Triple K. That doesn't help. Why would they do that? That doesn't help them. They would be actually educating people to leave them. So they're trying to raise the grade point averages, lower scores. So that's the part where you take the legs out. Lower scores of higher achieving Asian, white, and Hispanic ones. I would assume that would include higher achieving Black students also, but they're so racist, I don't think they consider that possibility. It just makes me laugh when they try to call other people, whoever they want to call, Joe Rogan racist. This is literally some of the most racist stuff I've ever seen in our country, ever. It's obviously unconstitutional and it's celebrated. They say new grading criteria are necessary to further school districts' missions of DEIJ, diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice, by training teachers to remove the non-academic factors from their grading practices and recognize when personal biases manifest. Districts can proactively signal a clear commitment to DEIJ. I don't know if this is going to be like LGBT where it just keeps adding letters. I'm not familiar with the J part. I'm not familiar why you need to add the J part as well. But I think the J part might be an attack literally on the justice system. But it's going to keep expanding. That is a direct quote from Margaret Sullivan, Associate Director at the Education Advisory Board. Sullivan calls grading based on traditional classroom testing outdated practices. And it might be outdated. This is not better. And foster unconscious biases. I don't know how you fix for biases that happen at the home level. That's what they're trying to fix for. Schools can't do that. They can try to help, but they can't magically switch someone's mentality to make sure you have a father and a mother in the home. They actually don't want that. Remember, Colonel Allen West was booed by Black people at a college for basically saying, wait, let's not lose track of traditional family values. Teachers may unintentionally let non-academic factors like student behavior or whether a student showed up to virtual class. And then on top of that, are you still doing virtual classes? If you're doing virtual classes and it's not like a structured, now if you're doing like a true homeschooling type of program, that's different, I think. But if you're just in a public school and you're doing virtual class, don't even worry about all this DEIJ. You're already behind the 8 ball. You're already setting your children up for failure. There is no reason to be doing virtual class in a public school at this point. I can't believe they even brought that up. Why are they still doing virtual classes? Is anybody still doing virtual classes where you're at? School districts across the U.S. are experimenting with getting rid of 0 to 100 point scales. Others are allowing students to retake tests and turn work in late. So that's not something that's helping someone to learn discipline and responsibility. Maybe if they had something in place where they said, hey, I don't know what it might, maybe it would be too complicated to say you turn it in late once. No, this isn't the way we go. We actually need to go down a discipline responsibility. We don't need to do math right now. We need to learn discipline and responsibility. Now, that's a parent's job, so don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying, if the school were to do that, then I would say, bet. I like where you're heading, because that's the foundation that helps you learn to read and everything else. Fiorenza called for a switch to race-based grading last August after issuing a report chronicling a spike in F grades. So that's the ugly part of this, is these administrators don't want to see these F grades. They're true F grades. She's not saying they're wrong or anything like that. They're Fs. But it might look better if we make C the lowest, or maybe a C minus. It'd be interesting to see after this is implemented how many Fs even get given out. If you don't have zero, I don't know how you could get an F. The administration will adopt language that makes and keeps the system visible and continues to name racism as a complex, interconnected structure. Literally, that is pretty much the definition of critical race theory. You could say in practice, all that, who cares? It's critical race theory. We must recognize the unique challenges faced. Ooh. This is, I don't mean to be dark, and I think there will be a takeaway for people. It's not going to be necessarily an optimistic takeaway, but there's definitely a takeaway. And believe it or not, this has to do with 2A. I'm not going to end with it being about 2A, but this is definitely about 2A. Because things are slowly contracting to the point where there's no end to what will happen to make things equitable. And it's all against MAGA Trump. So if you have that feeling like, hey, I'm not going to be forced to believe or not believe anything, then the walls are closing in, let's just say. These young people who are being raised in this system, what are they going to look like 10 years from now, 18 years from now? And then some of the older ones are already in this type of stuff. They will be Supreme Court justices, potentially down the road. I think that's enough of this for right now. Really just brainstorming through it. I'm still absorbing it. Just saw it this morning. I thought it was a parody. It couldn't be real. But it's here. We're here now. We went from critical race theory is not being taught in school to this, race-based grading. They literally don't feel black people can be on the same level education-wise, so they're going to put a lipstick on it. How long before, if you're black, LGBTQ, whatever, you're going to have a higher grade point average just based on identity? I mean, we're not that far away from that. I'm going to end with a message because I think this has to go to, well, my takeaway is for common people, what am I supposed to do? If you're in an area that doesn't agree with this locally, then for me, pray and be grateful every night. If you are in an area that does not denounce this type of stuff or supports it, God forbid that you're in that school, you've got to get out. If you don't agree with this, you've got to get out immediately. I think your life is in danger long term. I'm not saying imminently, but long term, if you don't agree with what they're doing here, you are not safe, in my opinion. So it's not to be scaring anybody, but you got to save your money or whatever you need to do to get the hell on out to an area localized where people view you and other people have more of a common fundamental view on morals. And then that's the safest place to be. So I appreciate this for them to go mask off if I'm in this area, so I know I have to leave. But my takeaway, I'm going to go with this takeaway and then I'll be out. I got a hard out here. My takeaway is I want to talk to black identitarians. When I said, hey, ADOS, how's that fight for reparations going? This is African descendants of slaves. I've been going back and forth with them about reparations. And I don't want to argue about whether reparations should happen or not. Where I'm at now, because I'm not for it, but I don't want to argue with that. And I want to go on a channel with a guy who has, I think he has a very good channel, seems respectful, has his take. We can have a real discussion. I'll put a link when we hook that up. But I don't want to go on there and argue with him for reparations or not. I don't want to do that. But what I do want to do is I actually want to go on there and say, hey, I actually want to help the fight for reparations. And the reason why I want to do that, even though I'm not for it, is because I think learning the right strategy to get reparations will teach you don't need reparations, or reparations are actually harmful. The idea is harmful. So my theory is, if we go on the path to actually put yourself in political power to get it done, and they might do reparations, but obviously it would be something stupid like this. But if you're really going to get what they want for reparations, that path will be invaluable for them to learn. So I do come across harsh, but it is what it is. Hey, ADOS, African descendants of slaves. How's that fight for reparations going? Considering this news of we're going to make it, basically my interpretation, you're going to make F's C's or whatever. Without changing the quality of the education. And this is a Democrat thing, obviously. Dems were planning on handing out crack pipes until they got clowned for it and said, nah, we weren't going to do that. No, yes, you were. I might want to have to revisit that, because that really pissed me off when people who are non-estat corporate news were saying, wait, it looks like y'all are going to hand out crack pipes. Then they changed their mind, and then they tried to make it look like you were disinformation. That really pissed me off. But no, they were planning on handing out crack pipes. That's not a lie. And are now changing failing grades to passing grades to cover up their desire to keep us dumb, deaf, and blind. Is this a part of the strategy for reparations? Do you think if these people do reparations, which I don't think they will, but it's possible, in California or something like that, do you think that they are really going to do something that's meaningful? They're the same people trying to keep you stupid on a mental plantation. It's right there in front of you. So how's that fight for reparations going, y'all? These people, Democrats or anybody who agrees with this, if you agree with this stuff, this ideology, you view black people or oppressed people as animals in a cage to be patronized, to be pet, to be fed. And for you ADOS people, that must be addressed before I hear the word reparations come out of your mouth. Remember, these are the same people who lied throughout the pandemic. These are the same people who forced you to put a muzzle on your face to send your kids to school, even 2-year-olds. So now we're seeing all kinds of theft. When you look at the videos online, they all have the mask on their face. So I guess it's okay. You're safe from that pandemic, but you're boosting a jewelry store. Literally on Twitter. Go search that up. These are the same people who argue that your babies can choose their gender like it's picking a toy that they want to play with. Like one day I might want to play with the truck. The other day I might want to play with a dinosaur. One day I could be a boy. One day I could be a girl. That is asinine. So the same people doing all this stuff are the same people you're asking for reparations from. What's the strategy again? I don't know. Call me crazy. Maybe you need to address that kind of stuff and force it to stop before you even talk about that kind of stuff. I don't know. Maybe I'm the crazy one. Let me know what you think. Take care.